All right, I'm Danny Gee, and this is my talk on a proper approach to content. It's going to be split into two sections. What do you want to do, and how are you going to do it? The first is going to look at picking out key aims and the types of content that's going to help you achieve those, while the second will give a few more specifics on formatting that content. And this will be applicable whether you work as part of a content team or you do a bit of blogging on the side. Just a brief introduction. I'm content marketing exec at Evolved Search in Newcastle. I studied journalism at Northumberland University, worked in the housing, automotive and marketing industries doing content across the board. I also write on the side covering football, food and cars, and I've got experience in copywriting, proofreading, video work and wider content creation. Because of all this homework, and I'm yet to get a professional headshot, so here's a photo of me at a wedding instead. Firstly, what do you want to do? This is going to go through the simple process of identifying those key aims that I mentioned and the types of content that's going to support them. So generally, all forms of content will sit within these three areas. You come up with the ideas, you get the content created and uploaded, and then you track the results, whether it's site conversions, site traffic, things like that. And normally it goes in that order. But I think a better approach is starting at the end. Think of what you want to do first and then work backwards. Think of the aims you're trying to achieve, what goals you're trying to get, and then go back from there. So working out those key aims, keep it simple and just pick one at a time. It's best to pick ones that are linked to your business or your brand performance, like sales, inquiries, and then go back a step. If you want to increase conversions, you obviously want to have more people on the site, more site visitors, generally more potential customers. Consider the buyer browser behaviors as well. If you were the person you're trying to attract, what would you want to see? What type of content or information would you expect to see on the web page? And always keep the end goal in mind. This helps guide the sort of behaviors and expectations that you're catering for, and it'll give you a head start when it comes to actually creating that content. When you've done that, you're ready to get into that ideation. And I would say to keep the four key areas in mind when you're going through, because generally content will sit within these four, and I'll just briefly cover them. Discovery is the sort of content that targets people who don't know you or don't know your brand, or they may be not as aware of you or what you do. So you're trying to attract that attention and direct them further down the funnel towards the inquiries, the conversions and all the rest of it. The second is awareness. Now this is targeted at people who are actively looking for information online. So they're more so coming to you than you trying to grab their attention. And what you want to be doing through this is answering popular online queries and questions through guide content generally. And then that will put you in a good position for consideration content. Now, the people who are in this step are normally people who've done their initial research. They know roughly, vaguely what they're after, but now they're looking for more specific info, and they're also wanting to weigh up the options. So take the example of buying a car. So they know they want to buy a car. They maybe don't know what type of car or maybe which company to buy from. So they're weighing up the different opportunities, different options. And what you want to do is make sure when they land on your site that they stay there and that they don't have to go elsewhere for information. You want it all to be there and easily accessed. And that'll put you in a great position for conversions. So this is the people who are ready to buy, and you want to make your key offerings as clear as you can, and you want to make the process as easy as possible. And there's a couple of examples of that in the later slides. So once you've done that thinking, you're then ready to get into the actual creation of it. And this is going to cover that. The point is for formatting that content correctly. So looking at those four categories that I mentioned before, you want to look at each of those in isolation. Different forms of content that have different purposes are going to sit in those different areas. And if you're going to make the most of the content, you need to know which of those areas your content sits in so you can cater it to that specific audience as best you can. And there's a couple of things that will help you do that. So if you're creating guides in awareness level content, for example, online tools like SEMrush will be really useful in terms of picking out keywords and the queries that are being asked online around those. But for those of you who are maybe blogging, like I mentioned at the start, you maybe don't have a budget for those online tools. Competitor analysis is a great one. It doesn't cost any money. Basically, I use the example of a food blog. So I've got a food blog on the side. When I was first starting out, I wanted to build the following, build the level of engagement. So I looked at other similar accounts that had high followers, high comments and likes and all the rest of it. And I was asking, what are they doing that I'm not? And that's a similar thing that you should be asking yourself. Look at those, see what they're doing and how you can bridge the gap. And that's a great way of doing it without spending any money. Finding the right words. Now, whether it's new customers you're appealing to or existing customers who you want to renew one of your services or buy more of your products, it's good to be relatable and recognizable through an identity. So the example there is KFC. They're really unique in the way that they market and in the way that they advertise. And that will put them front of mind. It'll make them memorable. If you can make your brand or your website memorable, you'll have a head start in terms of getting traffic onto it, perhaps. So again, using the example of someone buying a car, if they remember an advert, if there was a creative advert or an article they've seen, when they're thinking, right, I'm ready to start looking at options for a car, they might think, oh, well, I remember that advert. I'll maybe look on that website first. And that's what you want to be doing. Just make your content memorable while being creative and all the rest of it. Another key point to keep in mind is that generally, especially online, people are very lazy. They want the information there and they want it then. They don't want to have to look for it or trawl through reams and reams of copy or images and videos. They just want it there ready. And especially with discovery level content, it has to be snappy and eye-catching. So when someone's spending a couple of seconds looking at your post, you want to give them enough of a reason to click through onto your website, where they'll then move through those 4 stages towards a conversion. If it's not interesting enough, they're going to keep scrolling, is the simple fact of it. So you want to make it interesting and engaging is the key point. For discovery level in particular, with other forms like awareness, content and guides, you can spend a bit more time on it because they've come to you for info. But at the same time, I think the bottom line is don't waffle if you don't need to. And just as important as the words is how you organize it on the page. So what you're saying doesn't mean anything if someone isn't actually there to see it. If you've got a main point or a main offering, perhaps it's a latest offer, you've got a saving on a particular model, you don't want to hide that below a load of other bump like pictures, videos, other copy. You want it to be clear and prominent so people can see it without having to scroll through, and then they can get pushed along that funnel again, like I mentioned. For guides and FAQs, for example, one way you can do that is you should be formatting the questions that you're answering as H2s. That will make them bolder and bigger, and they'll stand out. Someone will look at that and think, right, the copy below that must have the answer to that question, the answer that I'm looking for. It's just a couple of examples here across those 4 areas. Again, be quirky, be creative with your discovery content. An example I've got here for a previous employer, I used to do car reviews, written and video. The standard you'd often see online, for example, the Fiesta ST, it would be Fiesta ST, great car, 4 out of 5. It's a pretty mundane headline. It's boring, doesn't really do anything, it doesn't tell you anything. Whereas the one I went for here, settee cushion with 200 brake horsepower, it's a bit more different. It maybe suggests that the article itself is going to be more playful, more conversational, which often helps to get information across easier. If you're speaking with sort of a level of communication with the reader, they'll understand what you're talking about. Similar thing with my food blog, Eat Newt. A creative image there fills the frame of all the different bao buns that I had that day, and that'll help direct people through to your Instagram account in that case, where you might find links to your YouTube channel or a written blog post. And it's just doing what you can on Instagram, Twitter, where they're scrolling through, something that makes them stop and have a look at it to then entice them to click through towards awareness content. On the right, let's see an example here. One of the clients that I work for wanted a review of their site, what they were missing, what the gaps were. One of the key areas was guides. There wasn't a lot of guides to the vehicle types that they offered, hybrids, convertibles, saloons, for example. So we recommended including a guide to cover each of those different areas with the relevant queries contained. So you'll see there, which hybrid should I buy, is a question that we know has been asked online by quite a few people in terms of the search volume. And below that, we can push Bristol Street Motors, who was the client, we can push their models and their products within that section while answering the question. So it's a win-win, really. And that approach will help guide people towards this level of content consideration and conversion. So the example here, Octopus Energy, recently moved into this new house, so we've just switched our gas and electric, and I found that their website was really handy in doing that. The FAQ section in particular, there was a search function, there was categories, so you could search for topics, or you could type in what you want to look for. All the information was there. There was the question, you could see where to click to get that answer. It was just really easy to use, and it meant that there was surely few questions would be left unanswered on that site, which helps push you towards conversion, push your site visitors towards conversion. Again, looking at Bristol Street Motors, their buy online page is really simple, clear, and easy to use, and that's what you want. Make it as simple as possible so that the user has to make the least effort to get to a conversion. You don't want to put them off with a confusing system or not provide the information that they need. It should all be there on that one page without having to direct them elsewhere if you can help it. And with this example, there was an interactive widget there where you put in custom values for deposits, term, as in the length of an agreement or a purchase, and then it give you a custom quote based on that. And that would be really helpful in terms of guiding people towards a conversion. All the information's there. You've got the imagery on the one side, and then the sales info that's custom to what numbers you're putting in, which really helps. So that's just a no-nonsense guide to creating the right content for your site and for your aims. If there's any more specifics, any more questions you have, maybe you want to see a few more examples of the work, just drop me a message on one of the contact bits mentioned at the bottom there, email or Twitter, and I'll be happy to help. Cheers for watching.